to our channel. Here we read Bible stories improvised for children and adults alike. Our Bible verse today is James 3:16. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. Being jealous indicates that we are not satisfied with what God has given us. The Bible tells us in Hebrews 13:5, be content with such things as ye have. Our story today is called Joseph's Brothers Sell Him into Slavery, taken from Genesis 37. When Jacob and Rachel and Leah came into the land of Canaan, they had 11 sons. As far as we know, there was only one daughter, Dinah. The sons had these names: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. Soon after they came into Canaan, Rachel had another son, Benjamin, but then she died. Jacob was very sad because he had loved Rachel very much, and his favorite sons were the sons Rachel had given him, Joseph and Benjamin. After this, Jacob went back to his own home at Hebron on the plains of Mamre, where his father Isaac was still living. Isaac was a very old man, much older than any man becomes nowadays. When he died, not long afterward, he was 180 years old. Jacob and his family stayed on at the old home. Now Jacob was very fond of his son, Joseph, who was 17 years old at this time, and he gave him a lovely coat with long sleeves made of colored cloth. Perhaps it was not wise of Jacob to favor Joseph in this way, and his brothers became jealous and hated him. One night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it the next day, they hated him even more. In his dream, all the brothers had been cutting wheat in the fields, and each one bound what he had cut into a bundle. Then Joseph's sheaf of wheat stood up, and all of the others bowed down to it. The brothers were very cross. It seemed to them that Joseph was trying to lord it over them, and they would not have it. A few nights later, Joseph dreamed again, and once more he told his brothers what he had dreamt. This time, he saw the sun and the moon and 11 stars bowing down to him. And then even his father was angry. "What is this?" he said. "Am I and your mother and your brothers all to kneel before you?" The brothers, too, were very cross, but Jacob remembered Joseph's dream and thought often about it. Sometime afterward, all the brothers except Joseph and Benjamin went out to look after sheep in the district of Shechem. When they had been away several days, Jacob sent out Joseph to see them and to find out how they were getting on. When Joseph came to Shechem, he could not find his brothers, but he met a man there who told him they had gone on to Dothan, and there he found them. But as his brothers saw him coming towards them, and still a long way off, they decided that this was a good chance to kill him. That is how people begin to think when jealousy gets a hold on their minds. They planned to kill him and throw him into some hole out in the hills. Then they would go back and tell Jacob that some wild animal had killed him. But Reuben was not as bad in his heart as the rest of the brothers. He persuaded them not to kill Joseph, but only to throw him into some hole. Secretly, he planned to rescue Joseph and send him back home again. So the brothers took Joseph's coat from him and then threw him down into a hole. Do you know, they were so bad, it worried them so little that they sat down quietly to eat their food. As they ate, they noticed, coming over the horizon, an Ishmaelite camel train on its way to Egypt with all kinds of spices to sell there. Then Judah had a plan. They would sell their brother to the Ishmaelites to be sold again as a slave in Egypt. Reuben was away at the time, but the rest of the brothers agreed, and they bargained with the Ishmaelites and sold Joseph for 20 pieces of silver. When Reuben came back, he tore his clothes when he heard what had happened. He was so sad, but how could that help? Joseph was gone. So they took Joseph's coat and tore it and dipped it in the blood of a goat that they had killed. This blood-stained coat they sent back to Jacob, and when Jacob saw it, he mourned terribly because he believed that a wild animal had killed his favorite son. No matter how they tried to comfort him, it did not help. The old man went through life with sorrow in his heart all the time, and none of the brothers dared to tell him of the terrible thing they had done in selling Joseph as a slave. Let's repeat our verse. James 3:16. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. What did we learn from this story? 2 Corinthians 10:5 tells us, casting down imaginations, bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Joseph's brothers selfishly focused on what Joseph had and not on God's blessings to them. They were jealous of him. They were unthankful. Their thinking led them to consider murdering their brother. It started with their wrong thinking that led them to hate Joseph. Proverbs 23:7 says, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Thank you for joining us on our Bible reading journey. I hope you can join us next time as we can continue our story called From Prison to a Palace.